Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Wild. Today, of course, we're talking dual blades in this mid-title update 4 update. We have some key changes to consider thanks to things like Arch-Tempered Arkveld having new pieces with a fantastic convert element efficiency, which means we can engage with a dragon-focused element set again. Not to mention the new levels to the Exploiter charm for a fantastic crafted talisman as a reliable option, or the new Nadia armor, which gives us a new way to access gore 2-set bonus. There's also some possible tweaks to the weapon setup just to reference in regards to your affinity management, which I'll get into. But overall, as I've said a lot now, I find dual blades in Wilds pretty incredible. The concept was initially really cool, I really liked it. The perfect evade to replace the rise counter, I was so glad we got that. But the new control over, the combos, especially the ability to smoothly swap stances mid-combo, it's really good. And admittedly, it took them a couple updates to really smooth things out with new options, fix some issues in regards to buff management, so on. But I think we're in an incredible place now, I'm very happy with. So I strongly encourage you guys to try the weapon if you haven't, and hopefully these builds today can give you the tools to do that with confidence. With that said, before we begin, credit and thank you to Josh as always for putting together the sets we're looking at today, having the math done to back it up, so we can show you these in confidence. And as usual, DTL Nor for the original data mine for what was possible for the new RNG talisman system to help us make these decisions. So let's get into the builds. In regards to your weapon setup then, there's a couple things to highlight. Basically, in most cases, you're going to want the set bonus or active skill for gore Magala's Tyranny, and the backup being Lord Soul. There will be one build, specifically the Dragon build, that actually wants the Gogma active skill instead of Gore's, which I'll highlight again in that build. But for most cases, it's going to be gore Magala's Tyranny. The other thing I want to highlight is the base setup for the weapon. When you're crafting the weapon as an artian, then upgrading it to a Gogma artian, there is something you can do to mess with the affinity. So when you choose the attack focus, the affinity focus, or the element focus, you're getting a different base. In many cases with the build, we were talking about going attack focus originally for that extra 10 attack, but at the cost of a minus 10% affinity starting point. For the build today, we want you to have done an element focus ideally. That way you're starting at 0 affinity percent instead of tanking a minus 10%. Otherwise, the starting point is pretty much the same as it was before. Your 3 attack infusions, you have your element infusions to have that element focus, whatever the element of the weapon is, dragon in this case, and then a very familiar reinforcement bonus setup, which is 4 attack boosts, 2 of being level 3, 2 being EX, and obviously the sharpness one being EX. There's a bit more leeway though with dual blades, which is nice. You could have slightly scuffed or different reinforcement bonuses, like here I have an affinity boost EX instead of my fire weapon. And apparently, you could even roll a second affinity roll here instead of the attack boost 3, and that could be EX as well, as another solid option. Ultimately, what we're talking about is min-maxing your weapon setup as much as possible. And if you already had like a great weapon setup that had a different set bonus on it, or is ideal but it still has that minus 10% affinity in exchange for 10 raw, don't stress over this. It's just important that we try to min-max in these videos, and our math will be based on pretty much the ideal version, as you might expect. But outside of the whole min-maxing of your weapon setup, just a reference to the offensive decorations so that you can see it, you want your LE attack 3 and then that bonus level of handicraft. You want 3 levels of critical boost in another decoration slot, and the last one is a bit optional. Critical element level 3 and a bonus handicraft is a fantastic option. Or you could go for razor sharp and a bonus level of handicraft if you need sharpness management. If fights are going on for an extreme amount of time, that is something to consider. Now let's get into the sets. Running down the list, we're going to start with the 4 element setup. This is the one you'll use for all the elements except for dragon, since convert element only provides you with bonuses to dragon. In this case, as a reminder, you want gore Magala's Tyranny as your active skill on the Gogma weapon. Then for the equipment, we have the Guardian Rathalos helm in beta, the Gog chest in beta, the new Gamma gloves from Arkveld, the Gog waist in alpha specifically, and the new Nadia boots that give us a new way to access gore Magala's set bonus. For the talisman, you have a few options. Here's a great option or example: 3 crit eye, and then a bonus skill that's relevant to the build that you would otherwise decorate for. So weakness exploit and agitator could be that option. I have weakness exploit in this case, but it's any skill that takes up a 3 slot that you decorate for. So in this case, we have burst decorated in the gear, which means this talisman could be a 3 crit eye and burst talisman, and then you need to redecorate to make sure there's a weakness exploit in one of your decorations. Just make sure inside of the talisman is 1 crit boost. When it comes to a crafted talisman to remove the RNG, there is the new weakness exploit talisman, giving you 3 levels of weakness exploit in one slot. If you're going to use that, then you'll need to redecorate your armor to get more burst in the build, but to the best of your ability, you try to match the skill list that I have here. So here's the decorations I use to achieve this skill list. Here's the first page. Here's the second page. You can see we now have Scorcher as a 2-piece here for some bonus fire procs, which is really nice. We have the Gore 2-piece, of course, and we have the Gogma 2-piece. And one other detail there is the fact that we have 2 levels of flare in the build. Let's take a look at the math to see how it's doing. Assuming you have the ideal setup, we have 247 base raw. We increase that from these numbers and multiply it via white sharpness, getting us to 402.6. We have 62% reliable affinity with this ideal setup, and 4 crit boost, so that brings us to a total of 495 effective raw. Then you have the element, which should start at a base of 300. You have these multipliers and then flat additions, getting you to 632, which is just below the early cap. Let's debloat that. It's more like 63.2 true element. Multiply that by the white sharpness, and you're looking at 73 effective element. And again, don't forget, you have the flare benefits and say the Scorcher procs, which will add a lot of DPS value there too. But now let's take a look at the Dragon Focus set, massively boosted thanks to Convert Element. And as a reminder about Convert Element, you take a element hit and it triggers. That gives you a boost to your dragon element output and gives you a unique dragon pop of damage here and there, like you're now building up a dragon status or something. So it's incredible for dragon element setups, and now that it's a lot easier to fit into the build, we might as well. But there's an important change here to consider for this dragon focus, and that is the active skill in your Gogma Artian. Here we have the Gogma set bonus instead of the gore magala. That's an important change for the dragon one specifically. Other than that, let's take a look at the armor set. So we have the Guardian Rathalos helm in beta again. We have the new Gamma chest piece from Arkveld. We have the Guardian Rathalos gloves in beta. We have the Gamma dahaad waist. And lastly, the Gog boots in alpha specifically. Once again, for the talisman, same concept. 3 crit eye. In the offensive decoration slot, we have the crit boost level to get us 4 crit boost total. And then a bonus skill. In my case, I have weakness exploit, but that could be agitator, adrenaline rush, or even burst, based on what you're decorating in the build. You just try to ultimately achieve the same skill list I have in whatever way you've got. For a non-RNG talisman, you could go for the 3 weakness exploit talisman that's come in with this update, or even 3 agitator as an alternative. Then you just redecorate the armor to try to achieve the same skill list as close as possible. You will need some burst though. These decorations achieve this skill list, so there's the first page for you to look at. Here's the second page. As you can see, we've achieved Scorcher. We've got mutual hostility thanks to the Gogma set on our weapon. We have Lord Soul for Guts Tenacity, and you will have some 1 slots to work with here in terms of Dragon Res. That's what I've gone for when I'm hunting Arkveld in this set. But obviously Divine Blessing or Constitution for more stamina help, whatever you like. But the reason we go for 5 agitator instead of say 5 burst in this case is because of Convert Element. Since it's giving us a big boost to dragon, we can actually boost ourselves up to element cap while it's active without needing burst, so we can get more value out of agitator. So let's take a look at the math to see that. 247 base raw increased from these sources and multipliers. And after white sharpness, that gets us to 416.26. We have 52% reliable affinity in this case, and 4 crit boost, so that brings us to 496 effective raw. That's indeed 1 more than the other all element set, which is great. But then we have the element itself, so 300 base element, multiplied by this, and then the flat additions, including, of course, Convert Element, gets you over the element cap at 732. The element cap is 690. So that's obviously more like 690, we can't actually get more than that. Debloat that for the true element, and then you multiply that by the white sharpness, and that brings us to 79 effective element. So yes, with the dragon specific setup, you literally have 1 more effective raw and more effective element, which is very exciting. Plus you're getting the dragon pops during Convert Element, and we're still getting Scorcher procs. Next up then, let's talk about a raw build as an option. Dual blades obviously benefit so much more from element in general. Obviously having 5 different solid elements with the right upgrades is a pain, so some people might prefer the idea of a raw setup. You can use it as an entry point, go take it against any monster, it doesn't matter about the weakness. But in all cases, you'd rather have, instead of something like paralysis, an element that matches the weakness of your target. So it's something to keep in mind. But we at least want to give you the option, the set that would work for a raw focus setup. So again, you'd have the gore magala's tyranny as your set bonus on your gogma weapon. And then for armor, we would have the gamma helmet from Arkveld, Gog's chest piece in beta specifically, the guardian Rathalos gloves in beta, the gamma Jin dahaad waist, and the new Nadia boots for the gore set bonus. Same talisman as before, 3 crit eye, with the 1 crit boost in the offensive decoration slot, then a bonus skill that you would decorate for otherwise. Weakness exploit, agitator, burst, adrenaline rush, check what you've got, and just make the same skill list. So speaking of the skill list, here's the decorations we use to achieve this skill list. Here's the first page, here's the second page. You see that we still have Scorcher, we have the Gore 2-piece now, and of course got Tenacity as well. Keep in mind, there should be a 2 slot to consider here as well. Put in that whatever you like. Having a bit of evade window on top sure is handy. You could instead go for a stamina surge for comfort or a level of coalescence just to give any kind of extra DPS, but this is a raw build. It's up to you. For a quick look at the math for this raw set then, 247 could be your base starting point. Multiplied in addition with these, and of course off the back of white sharpness, you get up to 422.86 raw. Then we have 72% reliable affinity and 4 crit boosts in the build, so that brings you to 536 effective raw. Now compared to the previous raw build, that is more effective raw, but now on top of that you're also getting the Scorcher damage, so it is significantly better this time around. Finally though, a last build is an important one. A setup where you'll use it for all 5 elements without any RNG involved or minimal RNG involved, which means a crafted talisman, and you don't need a specific gogma artian roll set bonus either. This is just the strongest build you can craft without RNG as a starting point to the weapon if maybe you wanted to try it. But still, you will want to equip some dual blades that match the target's element weakness with the set as much as possible. And incredibly, the effective element will match the RNG talisman version, even if yes, the raw is going to be noticeably less, but it's still an incredible crafted starting point. So taking a look, we have the new Nadia helm, we have the Gog chest piece in beta, the Guardian Rathalos gloves in beta, the new Nadia waist, and the Gog boots in alpha specifically. Then for the talisman, we go for that new weakness exploit upgrade, the Exploiter Charm level 3. Using these decorations, we achieve this skill list. So there's the first page, there's the second page. I obviously have gore magala's tyranny on my weapon. You won't need that, so you at least have the 2-piece there. You'll also have the Scorcher 2-piece. You'll have the Gogma 2-piece. And yeah, that's the set. As just a quick reference for you, it'll have 479 effective raw, which is 16 less than the RNG version, so obviously worse. But then equal effective element at 73. A pretty brilliant no RNG starting point, I would say. But there you have it. That's our update for dual blades in this final base game major update. Since we aren't expecting any new meta changing updates or new gear from this point onwards, it should just be a very strong endpoint for us in this weapon to go into the expansion with whatever they choose to do. So if you found the video useful, do drop a like to support us. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.